I am Professor Suhasini Desai, and I will be presenting an introduction to inductive teaching learning methods. Before we start with understanding what are inductive teaching learning methods, we have to see what is our traditional education system. Traditional education system is deductive. It begins with theories and progressing to the applications of those theories. So what teacher does in classroom is that on any topic, he starts with the basic principles and theories. Whatever is the mathematical part, derivations or equations, he will explain that. And finally, he will take an example, which is an application of those theories. Predominantly in engineering education, we have been teaching through lecture-based instruction. So our traditional education system has always been like this, delivering lectures in the classroom, and basically throughout this procedure, students are just listeners or they are passive. As against this, what are alternative teaching learning approaches? What are the methods? What do they mean? These approaches are inductive rather than deductive. They are based on constructivism rather than positivism. That is, students construct their own knowledge. There are many inductive instructional methods which are available, and of late, modernly, in last few years, they have been getting adopted all over the world. To understand what are these methods, as they are based on constructivism, which is the foundation of inductive methods, let us know what is this constructivism. Learning does not depend only on how clearly teacher explains or how intelligent students are or how hard they work, but learning entirely depends on the students' prior knowledge, conceptions and misconceptions about the course content, their interest in the subject, their view of its relevance to their needs, and compatibility between their learning style and instructor's teaching style. So, knowledge is not something which is absolute. It is constructed, and students' reaction to experiences leads to learning. This clearly proves that learning is a very individual experience, and that explains why everyone in a class does not learn the same. What are the features of inductive methods? Inductive teaching learning methods are essentially student-centered. There is more responsibility on students for their own learning, for gaining the knowledge. It is a constructivist method. Every method is constructivist method. Active participation of students is a must in inductive methods, and there are collaborative activities. Generally, students work in groups, either in pair or groups of 3, 4, 5 students. So they do not work individually in most of the inductive methods. What are the constituent approaches? There are many approaches, many titles which are given for new teaching learning methods, like active learning, collaborative learning, etc. Active learning is engaging students actively in a learning process in class, as opposed to merely presenting them with information. Collaborative learning is something in which students work on problems and projects collaboratively rather than doing everything individually. Another phrase which is commonly used is cooperative learning. It is team-based learning in which certain criteria must be met. Most notably, individual accountability for all the learning. So these are different approaches, but these are constituents of active learning methods, or I can say inductive teaching learning methods. Now, inductive teaching learning methods are many. Out of them, the major ones are listed down here, and we will see one by one what are these methods. And the soul of this video is the purpose is to introduce you to these teaching learning methods. So, inquiry learning, problem-based learning, which is called as PBL very commonly. Project-based learning, though it is PBL, it is different than problem-based learning. case-based teaching, discovery learning, and just-in-time teaching. So these are the prominent inductive teaching learning methods, and one by one we'll be seeing them. Inquiry learning. In inquiry learning, students are presented with questions to be answered or a set of observations to be explained. So it is sort of offering them a real situation, and then they go into that. It includes different types of inquiry learnings like structured inquiry, guided inquiry, or open inquiry. In structured inquiry, the inquiry is structured. The way you approach it is structured. Guided is that students go up to a certain level and teacher guides them further. Open inquiry is more open-ended inquiry. So this is one of the method of inductive teaching learning. What students learn in this inquiry learning is that they formulate appropriate questions, they identify and collect necessary evidences, they present results systematically, analyze and interpret those results, they formulate conclusions, and they evaluate those conclusions. That is, they do not just formulate conclusions, but they have a final comment about conclusions, and they evaluate them, they compare them. These are the various things students will learn, not only in inquiry learning but also in more or less to more or less percentage in all the inductive teaching learning methods. Students will achieve this. Going to next method, which is problem-based learning. Here students are confronted with an open-ended, ill-structured, authentic, that is real-world problem. Students work in teams to identify learning needs and develop a viable solution. Instructors act as facilitators rather than primary source of information. We'll be going more into details about problem-based learning, because in another video uploaded, problem-based learning is explained to a larger extent. Next one is project-based learning. An assignment is given to carry out one or more tasks that lead to a final product. Here it is like a project, just like the capstone project or a final year undergraduate project, in which they have an assignment which will be carrying out one or more tasks which will lead to a final product. This product could be a design, it could be a model, a device, a component, a system, or a process. So it is the typical example of this could be a final year project. Final outcome is normally a report which summarizes the procedure used to produce the product, and a presentation, which is the way we generally assess any final year project. So project-based learning is entirely different than problem-based learning. Case-based teaching. Students analyze case studies of historical or hypothetical situations that involve solving problems and making decisions. So here historical means whatever which has taken place earlier. Maybe company has done one project and that case study is offered to the students to analyze. Or hypothetical situation means you construct a situation and then you tell students to analyze it, come out with the possible solutions and to make decisions. So case-based teaching is like you take a case study and on the basis of this you teach a particular domain knowledge. This is very commonly used in other disciplines, but in engineering this is under inductive teaching learning method, and this is not done very frequently in every course, so to say, in engineering. So next one is discovery learning. It is an inquiry-based approach in which students are given a question to answer, a problem to solve, or a set of observations to explain. They work in largely self-directed manner to complete these assigned tasks. They draw appropriate inferences from outcomes, discovering the desired factual or conceptual knowledge in the process. One may think that this is just like inquiry-based learning, but discovery learning is something in which they discover some concept or some fact through the problem solving. So scope of discovery learning is a bit larger than that of inquiry based learning. So we come to the last inductive teaching learning process, which is just in time teaching, short formed as GITT. It combines web based technology with active learning methods in the classroom. What students do is that students complete web based assignments before the class individually, and in which they answer questions, and instructor or teacher goes through the answers before coming to the class, and through the answers he finds out what the students are weak in certain area, or understanding of a certain concept is weak because they have not answered, majority of students could not answer something, and in that case he adjusts his lessons accordingly. So you need web based technology for that, and but it is not very uncommon nowadays. Process is repeated several times a week, and use of questions to drive learning makes method inductive. It is an inductive method. So up till now we have seen all the major inductive teaching learning methods which are there in practice. Now the major question we come to is that how do I start using them? This is a major question from any teacher who is introduced to these methods and who wants to use them in practice. So these are some of the guidelines. Teachers should first decide what are the learning objectives. Based on those objectives, teachers should select proper instructional method, which method I want to exercise. Teachers should prepare well to guide and support students. Teachers should also anticipate some students' resistance to inductive learning, because in our country, we all, teachers as well as students, are very much tuned to traditional teaching learning methods till now. So going away from traditional method and actively taking part in my own learning experience is something new to the students, and they might resist this idea. So a student has to be provided with adequate scaffolding while following these methods for the first time. Then once he gets used to it, one can very effectively use these methods, and I feel that this blended approach of following inductive teaching learning methods along with the traditional method is the key to the success. Thank you very much.